there's no one size fits all. Doesn't exist, even though it's marketed to us. Hey, download this app, buy this notebook, take this pill, you're good to go. It's all bullshit. It has to be customized for the way you present, which is unique to you, and how you're applying it, the context in which you're executing it also. Because I'm sure you've noticed your ADHD is different from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when you were maybe single or you were in school versus a job and having kids. And it's always changing and fluctuating. So those tools that you use have to be customized for you.
What if I do this thing and I don't fail at it? What if I'm really good at it?
Yep.
What if I'm really successful at it? Then what?
So the moment that it gets either difficult or unfun, because we didn't think about the unfun parts of it. We just thought about the success of it. So when it becomes difficult or not fun, or we don't arrive at the destination that we thought we were going to do, if we don't have the skills to be able to navigate that discomfort, we abandon and then we pivot.
Tell everybody who you are. I know you as Hyla. We'll explain how we met, but give everybody the elevator speech. Who is Hyla?
Elevator speech, yeah. So I'm an ADHD coach. That has been my job now since COVID, right? So the last 4 years. My background is radio, television, and filmmaking. I've done a lot of documentary films. I also do stuff on TV. In classic ADHD fashion, it is impossible to name the one thing that I do, which makes it really difficult and long-winded introductions for people. And it's also some of the reasons, and I don't know if you feel this anxiety sometimes, but the question of what do you do is one of the most anxiety-inducing questions that I get, because it's hard to sometimes pinpoint that depending on who you're talking to and the context and whatnot. So thank you for starting with a really difficult, frustrating, anxiety-inducing question.
It's the question I hate the most. I do all the things. I do all the things for all the people. That's literally one time I was like, I do video stuff. I was like, I can't answer it. Like, no matter how many times I've tried to write it down. And it depends on who I'm talking to. Because I have the same background, TV, radio, film, now podcasting, doing all the things. I can do all the things. What do you need? Tell me what you need first, and then I can tell you how I can help you.
But I think this is a really good reminder, is that so much of ADHD is you have to force yourself to make hard decisions. And that's one of the things that I always work with people on. I work with myself daily, is like that sort of confusion. If you don't have that clarity, there's going to be more chaos in your life. And we avoid making those hard decisions because it means often what I call killing your darling. Usually when you have to shut down a great idea, it kills you. It's like having to get rid of one of your kids. It's really uncomfortable, and then we avoid it, and it ends up biting us in the ass later on. But if you can do that, if you can make that difficult decision, it creates so much more freedom in the long run.
Well, in full disclosure, you've coached me through some ADHD moments and made me kill off my darlings.
Which you yelled at me for.
I remember was not happy.
You're like, oh, you did not like that. Oh,
no, I was like,
with this in just a couple of hours. Yeah.
I can do all of this. Don't you know? The world and time has to bend to my will. Why do I have to bend to the world and to time?
It's like it's the absurdity that you think that if you went to the Cheesecake Factory, you can order everything on the menu and eat it in one sitting.
Yes, I still believe that. But you made me kill off my darlings, which we killed off writing books, children's books, and a novel. And then making like filmmaking, basically, which is still there, right? Like, we killed them off for now. They're a future project. Well, but we like had to get into this first.
Okay. Yeah. It's like phantom power. If these things are still kind of like taking up brain power, it's eating up energy that you can use towards other things. And that's why I'm like, no, you got to kill it. Sure, maybe bring it back to life in 10 years, but it is dead for the foreseeable future.
But that's why people need an ADHD coach like you, because you can sit. We went through all the things, like why the things, why now, get clarity on the why. And then also, when you killed them off or made me kill them, as uncomfortable as it was, it really did free up that space to focus on the other things that I knew I wanted to do, which was being a creator and starting the podcast. And so when you give yourself permission to stop thinking about those things, shockingly, it really did free up time. Now, is my brain still like a jumbled mess? Of course, because I have ADHD. It's just the reality of the life that I live. But when you can sort of like, okay, push those aside because these are the things we're focusing on. I was able to do it. I mean, I've got the thing. The podcast is up and running. I'm doing the thing. I'm creating more content than I ever have before. So it does work. It's just hard. And that's why I feel like people need an ADHD coach like you to walk them through the process. There's one thing I want to ask you. The circle icon. So I rediscovered you. Yeah. During COVID, we reconnected because you were on Clubhouse.
Clubhouse was this audio only app, and it was great for our sort of radio sensibilities to jump on there. And I was lucky enough to be a part of that early rise and fall, which was over the course of 12 months. It was like the hottest thing in the world, nothing in the world. And it was such a good lesson about building communities on other platforms and how it's monopoly money and can be taken away from you. I had 200,000 followers at its peak, and now I have 0 because it means nothing. So sorry, tangent, but go ahead.
But the icon, so all day dreaming, is it because you use the letters ADD? Is that where all day dreaming came from? And then the icon is the sun, right?
The icon is a focus point. It can be the sun. Yes, it's very intentional. You know, whenever we start something, especially as creatives, there's an aesthetic or an idea that we have something to be. And I remember I had spent like 6 months. I can't launch until I have the perfect logo, right? I can't
story of my life.
Right? Down in here, I have like so many versions. And at some point I was like, what are you doing? Like it was a form of procrastination. Perfection is one of the worst forms of procrastination. And so I was like, what is the heart of the thing that I want to do? I want to help people focus better, and I want them to do it in a way that is simple, because you can have both those things. And I was like, oh, it's got to be this crazy. No, it's a yellow dot. The most boring thing you could possibly think of. Just a simple yellow dot. And when you create boundaries for yourself, there's something about the ADHD brain that I feel kind of activates it. When you allow yourself to do anything and everything, that's where you get overwhelmed and you paralyze. But if I'm like, hey, dude, you got to build a car with only a matchstick and a toothpick and a paper clip, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got to figure out this challenge. So a lot of it was just like, make it simple, force myself to work in this simple box.
And then is the shirt sort of like your Mr. Roger neighborhood sweater? When you put the shirt on,
bingo,
you're like, I'm in the zone. This is where I am right now. Is that where that came from, or the idea?
Yeah. So it's a combination. There's a few people, Mr. Rogers, when he comes home and he puts on a sweater, you know it's business time, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers ain't messing around. His shoes come off, his slippers come on. We are in the zone. But there's, Tom Sachs is another artist you see in his studio. He's a bricolage artist, a sculptor out of New York. He has the French laundry jacket. There was another photographer, Cunningham, who was a fashion street photographer in New York, would ride his bike everywhere. And he was a fashion photographer, and all he wore was the French worker jacket, the chore jacket. And there was something about, again, the simplicity. This is something Obama talked about. he only wore blue and black suits because he didn't want to waste brain energy on things that weren't important. He's like, I don't want to spend 20 minutes every day thinking about what I'm going to wear. It's not to say that you still can't have fun things, figure that out when you go out to dinner, but like, what is my uniform every day? So I don't have to think about it. And when I put this on, I'm kind of like, oh, it's work mode. In the same way, when you put pajamas on, you're like, oh, I'm in cozy, comfy, going to bed mode. Same kind of philosophy.
Mine are these high-waisted yoga leggings that have 2 pockets on both sides that fit both of my phones, because one is a phone and one is a camera. One iPhone I use just for literally pictures and videos, and the other one is a phone. And I couldn't find anything, especially like jeans can't handle the phones. Nothing can handle both phones. Yeah. So when I put these on, I know, okay, we're going to work. It's time to go to work.
It's your tool belt.
It's literally like, it is my yoga bag. I have 10 of them. They're all black with 2 pockets. It's like these deep pockets that fit the giant iPhones. Great. So that's like, literally, I was like, oh, I think I understand why he's wearing the same jacket every day. It's because this is that time. This is that space.
And also people kind of get to, like, it becomes, I want to have fun. Like, I always think of what I do as like a productivity playground. It doesn't always have to be heavy and hard and like not fun. Like, okay, here's my playground of productivity. How can I have fun in this space? And so, having this uniform is sort of like, there's an aesthetic to it too. There's a vibe that, the dot, like, yes, I've been getting coffee at the same spot the last few weeks. And just the other day, the guy's like, oh, yellow dot guy, what's that all about? Right. We strike up a conversation. I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm working with people and creatives with ADHD. I'm running these workshops in LA. Tuesday nights. He's like, oh, I got ADHD too, man. And then he spent 10 minutes telling me his life story while the line behind us backs up and everybody wants the coffee. But
so now much anxiety.
Now he knows me. I get free coffee sometimes. And it's just like, yeah, it's just a sort of it's a way to kind of articulate yourself to others without having to even say anything.
Well, talk to me about doing the nights now where you're actually in-person co-working, because I've done co-working sessions with you, which I think is brilliant, where it's virtual. We all say exactly what we need to do, and then you run the timer, which I forget, what is it called? Those time runs. Isn't it called something? Pomodoros. There you go. Yeah. The time runs. Whatever. But it was so useful. Now doing it in person, what made you decide to do that? Is it a combination of like networking and co-working? Was that sort of the theory behind it? And how do you get people with ADHD out of their house?
These are all great questions. Okay, so first one. What was your first question? Why am I doing it?
Yeah, why did you decide to go from just virtual to actual in person?
Great question. I get energy from other people. And I know not all ADHD people are introverts or extroverts, I should say. Some are introverts. Depends on, how your ADHD presents
Depends on the day. Are we on a high or a low?
On the day. Totally. I get energy from being around other humans. And one of my core philosophies around having a healthy, loving relationship with your brain and your ADHD is you have to, I believe that you want to try and be as analog and IRL as possible. The more time we spend in front of a screen, whether that's a computer screen, whether that's a phone screen, the higher the probability of getting distracted, the higher the probability of not doing the thing that we want to do or the thing that's the most important to us. And what I was realizing is that I'm running all these sessions on Zoom, and I'm bringing people into a digital space that, yeah, if you live somewhere outside of LA, I still want to be able to connect with you, and that's great. But I need to balance my life with some more IRL, some more analog, and creating a space where people can gather. I think people are desperate for that. I really do think that we're not happy when we're done with a screen. We just don't feel good. But the energy people feel gathering together in a real place, getting outside of their house, there's just a magic there that happens. And yeah, it's really beautiful.
Well, also with other people who understand, I don't like calling it a disorder, how our brains work, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
it's so soothing to be with other people that can talk in circles, that understand, like, our battery is getting low, right?
100%.
I just feel like it's easier to, like, not have to explain the situation. So I love that. How is it being received? Is it taking off the way you had hoped? Are you open to more people coming?
Yeah, I
How
would
are we
love more
doing with it?
people. Listen, it's hard. It's hard. Starting a business is hard. Being a creative is hard. The only thing that really helps me through these sort of transitional periods and starting up a new thing is it's never about the result. It's always about the process. And I really, all the entrepreneurs that I've worked with that have found success, the consistent thread amongst all of them is that they have learned to love to fail. They seek it out. They seek it out. They wake up today, they're like, how can I break this machine? How can I do something where I get rejected? And so instead of avoiding rejection, which is another form of procrastination, they lean into that. And they've reversed it. They completely changed their relationship with it. And it's like they get the dopamine from the failure. So I remember when I was first starting these IRL sessions in LA, I was like, someone was like, dude, you should pass out flyers. I was like, that is stupid. That feels mad. Like, no, I'm not doing that. And I was like, wait a minute. The fact that I had this visceral reaction to me was like, oh, there's something here because you're rejecting it. And then I was like, okay, how can I gamify this? How can I change my relationship with this feeling, this discomfort? I was like, oh, I wonder how many stores or people that I could get to say, no, get out of here. Don't want your stuff. No. And it was wild. The very first store I walked into was this zine magazine shop, which is like super uber cool. I love what they do. I walked into the guy, hey, my name is Hyla. I'm hosting these ADHD nights. Can I leave this flyer? He goes, I have ADHD and I have been dying for someone to help me with mine. Like the very first store I walk into. And so, listen, there were also other rejections. It happens, but yeah, it's just running these experiments, leaning into the rejection. And the very first week I did it, 0 people showed up. The second week I did it, 2 people showed up. The third week I did it, 8 people showed up. You know,
That's amazing.
The fourth week I did it, 3 people showed up. And it's fine. Like I'm in it. Like let's judge it over an arc, over 3 to 6 months. And then I'll tell you if I love it or hate it. But so far,
I love that though. Well, that's my Achilles heel is marketing. It's like I can't tell you what I do. I can't tell you how I do it. And marketing myself, and I think that comes from our background as producers. For me, I think that's where it stems from, of being behind the scenes, making other people shine, right? Like we're the Oz in the Wizard of Oz. Like we're the wizard making it all happen. And then when you flip the script and it's like, I had to put the camera on myself because I was the talent. I was the creative. I was shining the spotlight. I found that so hard. It took me 2 years to finally just like sit and start recording because I would literally put the phone on me and I'd be like, what the you're like, well, who wants to hear this? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And so our background, both Hyla and I started, well, did you start? Well, you started in radio too. Yes. Even before Cindy and Ray, you were in radio.
18 years old, right out of high school.
Right. So I started in TV. I was older when I got into radio. My whole background was live TV. And then I loved Hot Topics with The View, which is where I was working. And radio was sort of like 4 hours of Hot Topics. And I was like, perfect with that fourth wall broken because we could connect with actual listeners. And I loved it. And so that's where we discovered each other in Atlanta. I worked for the morning show. He worked for the afternoon show. But I think that there is this weird jump from like being behind the scenes to in front of the camera that I just couldn't accept with myself. Was it easier for you? It just seems easier for you to show up consistently for yourself on camera. Whereas for me, I'm just like, ugh, why am I doing this?
I mean, yeah, I do have more on-camera experience. What made it easy? It's a good question because I do get like those sort of public speaking. I think when I started my career, I remember the first time being on the radio was the scariest. The
So
scariest.
frightening. My pants.
It was an
And you know this, you're in a studio. It's
yeah.
just those people in front of you, but you can feel the millions of people listening almost. It's the weirdest feeling.
It's a wild thing. And I think early on, I just kind of learned that muscle that the only way through it, like the only way to do something is through the fear. I know it sounds a little cliche, Tom Robinson bullshitty, but it kind of is. Like the more you do the fear, the less scary it becomes.
1,000%.
And I just love the idea. So much of what I do is about don't judge yourself. Don't judge the feeling. Don't give the feeling power. Observe it. Let it be there. Like Elizabeth Gilbert has this in her book, The Big Magic, which is a really great analogy. And this idea that your life is a road trip and stress, anxiety, fear, imposter syndrome, all those things are in the car on the road trip with you. The question is, do you let it grab the wheel or is it just a passenger? And it's a passenger that says things, but you're not giving it power. You're not giving it validity. You're like acknowledging it. Oh, okay, you're scared of this thing up ahead of the road. Fine, I hear you. But we're still driving. I'm still in control. I still have my hands on the wheel. And that's kind of like all the fears because you do enough of these, you punch through enough of these fears. The fear doesn't go away. It's just your relationship with it changes. And so I don't know. I think there's also you get emboldened too when you have a family and you got to make money and you got to figure it out and you want to be a good
Yes.
example to your kids and you want to be the big, strong, like power, confident parent, father figure, whatever. And like, I just want that thing more than I want. Like at some point, don't you just, for you said 2 years. At some point, you were just sick of stalling. You were sick of
Yes.
putting it off.
Well, and I was telling clients, I was giving all my clients the advice of just do it anyway,
Yeah.
right? Like, isn't that like our most famous thing of like we tell everybody else what to do, but we don't take our own advice? So I was just telling everybody there's nothing to be scared of. Create in the dark. There's something beautiful about creating in the dark when nobody's watching because you could be your authentic self and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So what am I so scared of? And then I had to also heal my relationship with success and money because I think that like success wasn't what I was brought up to believe success was, right? Like, but you work for a corporation, you get your 401k, you get your retirement plan, and you're done. That's just not how the world works anymore. And that doesn't speak to me. I was on that track and then got off of it. So I had to sort of like reconvene of what does success mean to me?
Yeah.
And I think for the longest time, I was scared of success, right? What if I do this thing and I don't fail at it? What if I'm really good at it?
Yep.
What if I'm really successful at it? Then what? And so that's sort of like this weird space I'm in now where it's like, okay, I know that just showing up for myself every day and doing the thing, that's success to me. The bills are paid, that's financial success for me, right? Like everything is okay. I'm safe. And so really seeing like, oh, like I'm doing this for me. I'm my own biggest fan. Like that had to be enough. And then that allowed me to stay consistent. Honestly, it's just, I'm my own biggest fan. Nobody else cares. I'm doing it for me anyway. And then flipping it to, I'm a creator, not a consumer. That helped with time, right? Because I don't consume anymore. I create. And then also thinking of it as an art, like the art of conversation. What we do is an art form. Mm-hmm. And when I started thinking of it as an artist, that like, I just have to, I'm creating to create. I'm not creating to sell something, right? If you're creating this beautiful painting, that's something that's just coming from your gut because you have to do it. You're not thinking of, well, who's going to buy it? You're thinking, I just have to do the thing. Yep. Whatever happens at the end is not my responsibility. I leave that to the universe. When you started this ADHD all day dreaming, is that sort of where it came from? Like, I just have to do this next thing.
All Day Dreaming originally started as a documentary about creatives with ADHD, and then that's when COVID hit. And when I joined Clubhouse, that audio app, it was a way for me to be like, oh, I can like maybe find subjects to the film or just kind of keep the conversation going. And that organically turned into a community that I had not planned. And I was like, oh, this feels good. Like I love helping people. And I also feel like the ADHD space aesthetically was trash. There's a ton of snake oil in 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 this arena, and it kind of sucks. There's a lot of bad actors. Some are doing it intentionally. Some don't know that they are doing it. There are companies that are just trying to sell pharmaceuticals as fast as possible. There are influencers that don't give a shit about getting the information right and are just trying to, crank that algorithm to get a ton of viewers. And also, like, so many people with ADHD are creatives, and yet it's never the process of understanding your ADHD is not done in a creative way. So that's the other thing I really try and do. I try and take those sort of storytelling and creative aesthetic elements and like, we can make this fun. We can make this beautiful. We can make this aesthetically pleasing. And it's also like the niching down. There's some people I don't work with. I say creatives, artists, entrepreneurs, freelancers. That's my life. That's my experience. ADHD is so individualized. I can't be everything for everybody. I remember working early on. I was working with a woman who like worked in a lawyer's office and she was doing kind of more admin work. And at some point I was like, I don't know. I can't help you. I don't know your world. I don't understand how to apply the brain in that way because I can't do that. So I can't sit here and like fake it with you. We can't. It's not that you're a bad person per se. I don't have the tools to help you because I don't know that world. And so focusing on creatives and trying to create a space that didn't exist before for ADHD brains like ours that was basically how it started.
Do you plan on continuing the thought process of making a documentary about people with ADHD and like shining a light on the ADHD community and like the processes that we have to go through to even get help? And then the help we're getting is probably the wrong help because I don't think it's fully understood.
This is the number one pain point I have is sort of like deconstructing beliefs that people have created. There's things that sort of like general society projects on us. There's things that the ADHD space projects on us. And then we tend to hold on to those things so tightly. And that's what makes it so difficult to sort of come into your own ADHD. There's no one size fits all. Doesn't exist, even though it's marketed to us. Hey, download this app, buy this notebook, take this pill, you're good to go. It's all bullshit. It has to be customized for the way you present, which is unique to you, and how you're applying it, the context in which you're executing it also. Because I'm sure you've noticed your ADHD is different from 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when you were maybe single or you were in school versus a job and having kids. And it's always changing and fluctuating. So those tools that you use have to be customized for you. So anyone that's promising you a one size fits all, red flag, like get it out of here. It's garbage. And that's most of my time. Yes, I want to continue to the documentary is sort of the North Star, the far away thing that I'm working towards. But right now it's just like, how can I build a company that helps people, does it in a fun, aesthetic way, allows me to make money, and builds this like vibe community that feels like good, like the yellow dot. It's like I've already started working on like shirts and hats and stuff like that as a way to, these are like subtle reminders to create and curate your space to be it's kind of like people who like love a sports team or anything that you're like fans of, and if you want to be healthy and you want to work out every day, or you are you love art and you are proud to have your membership to all the different museums in town, and that was like your vibe, and you got the tote bag. you're surrounding yourself because you want to be a fan of that thing. And I feel like loving your ADHD is a practice.
It is absolutely a practice. And then also understanding, not overscheduling. And then, like, right? Because my ADHD high self is not the same person as the ADHD low self.
That's right.
And they're friends that have to understand that a yes may turn into a no. Right. Like, it is what it is, and it's not about you, it's about me. What has helped stopping me from saying no so much is actually creating content around doing things, which has fascinated me. Because in the past, if I wasn't creating content around it, I would just say, no, I'm not going to go, right? Like, I just planned this whole trip to New York City this past weekend, and I was fighting the urge, like, no, like, just cancel everything. We can get our money back. This is the day we can get our money back. Cancel all of it. Yeah. And I was going with my husband. I wanted to cover some of the New York Comedy Festival stuff, and then we got sick, and so I was like, just cancel all of it. And I decided not to because I was like, no, because I can create content around this. And it was almost like showing up for the content, maybe the impetus to get me out the door. But once I'm out the door, everything's okay. I'm safe. It's okay. It's all right. I may actually have an experience I enjoy. Yeah. So I've utilized it as a tool to help me get out of the house, to do the thing. Right. So like, I'm doing CreatorCon this weekend in Detroit, and I applied to be a part of it. I don't know why I was doing it. I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? But I was like, I have to do it. And now I'm a featured podcast there, and it's going to be amazing for me just to show up for myself and do the thing. Yeah. But again, like, my gut instinct is like, just don't go. Just don't go. Just say no. So sorry. I know there's only 15, podcasts, and I'm only one of 15 out of hundreds that you could have picked. But like, no, I don't want to do that. But like, knowing I'm going to get content out of this, right? It cures that problem I need to solve, which is like, what am I going to post this week? It gets me out doing things. So understanding like where it is in my brain and how my brain works has helped me tremendously in utilizing content creation as a tool to actually live my life. Whereas before I would just say, no, I'm not feeling it. I'm not going.
So you're hitting on something that is fundamental. And this is exactly what I work on with people, is creating momentum. ADHD people do not need to try harder. We try harder than everybody else. We're already trying harder than anybody else, period. So your problem is not trying harder. I think it's the inverse. I think people with ADHD need to resist less. They need to create momentum. They need to eliminate the decision paralysis. So one of the things I heard you say is like, you created these anchor points. Yeah. You are doing CreatorCon. You booked this trip to New York. There are these anchors that you created that you've eliminated the choice. So it's harder to cancel it. It's harder to stop the momentum once the train has left the building. Now you got to be careful because you don't want to schedule too many things and then you feel overwhelmed. Right. But it's all about creating momentum and magic. If you want to run a marathon, it's a hell of a lot easier to like join a run club, do it with a couple friends. Now on that Tuesday morning where you're kind of tired and you don't feel like running, they're knocking on your door being like, yo, Rachel, where are you? Get your ass up. Put on those yoga pants with the 2 iPhones in it. Let's go running. You don't have a choice. So the more of your sort of environment that you can curate that eliminates the choice and creates momentum without you even having to try, resisting less, that's where the magic is. But you can't do that until you are clear on what you should be working on, because you're just going to overload your system with too many things.
100%. And I feel like, again, working with somebody like you, which is why I feel like it's so important to have an ADHD coach or a one-on-one coach, especially in this vein that understands ADHD like you do, because we can't really do it alone, right? Even if it's to have those touch points of the co-working sessions or the one-on-one sessions with you. I feel like it's really just so important. I think we try.
Nobody, no one does it alone successfully.
So, there you go.
I would listen. You know what's super helpful? Like watching documentaries about some of your favorite artists and creatives. And what you will find anyone that I've ever admired had a team. They had some version of a team around them, whether that is friends, mentors, coaches. They had a team. Look at Serena Williams, greatest tennis player of all time. She did not do it by herself. She had a team. She had her sister. She had her dad. She had coaches. She had agents. She had nutritionists. She had a team. Now, we're all not billionaires and the world's greatest athletes, but there are versions of that you need to create for yourself. You are not going to do it alone. If it's not a coach or mentor, fine. It needs to be a friend. It needs to be an accountability person. There are also free resources that exist out there, but just surrounding yourself and being very intentional. They say we're the average of the top 5 people that we hang out with the most. Like, so much of our ADHD and creating that momentum is like, are there people that give me energy, or are there people that suck my energy out of me? I need to like curate like it's who is around me and be very intentional about what you serve.
When it comes to like planning your calendar, I know people are huge about that. Like, plan your calendar. Mm-hmm. I don't feel, or can ADHD people stay within those blocks of time that they block out, whatever it is, whether it's like, I'm going to go to the gym or blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to take calls at this time because I'm going to edit. Can we stay within those blocks of times, or do we have to curate our calendars completely differently than a normal person?
Depends. So I know people that do the calendar time blocking thing and that works for them. And I know people that don't. It is, and I know this is not a satisfying answer.
It's okay.
It's not, but again, it's based on how your ADHD presents and the type of work that you are doing. What are I call it flexible structure. We need some structure. We hate structure. We need some flexibility, but too much flexibility kills us. Yes. So there's a nuance there. Like, there's so many contradictions with ADHD people that we have to hold. Like, I can't focus, but then I hyper focus and lose a whole day. Like, there's a million of these things. And this is another example. Some structure, but not too much structure. And so it's a trial and error of figuring out how to do that. I personally, yes, love to time block. I do. I really do. Getting the one thing done, focusing on the process of the thing does help me complete something. I gotta look through my calendar. I gotta block stuff out, or I'll lose entire days. There's a way to do it for ADHD people, and it's just a skill like everything else. People will like try a method for a week and like, this didn't work, trash, throw it away. Like, it needs time to develop that muscle, just like any other skill that you learn. You're not going to sit down at the piano and start cranking out Mozart. Like, it's a process and you got to practice it.
Why do we feel like we have to be so perfect? Because earlier when you had mentioned like look forward to failure, I think there's a lot of times, and I find it within myself, that it's like, I'm scared to pivot. Why are we so scared to pivot? Why are we so scared to try something? Okay, that's not working. Let's do the next best thing. Why do we get so stuck in like, no, I didn't perfect this thing that I thought I was going to do so perfectly? Is that an ADHD thing, or is that just like a me thing? Where it's like, I tried the time blocking. I didn't try hard enough. It's like, I don't understand why we can't give ourselves permission to pivot.
That's a very great question. So a couple ways I can answer this. ADHD people are generating ideas at much higher rates than the average person. And every idea that we think of, we've already gone through all that whole journey, and we see the very best version of that idea. We already see how perfect it is. And we want to hold on to all those ideas, because why wouldn't we? They're perfect. I see their potential. I know how great they're going to be. I would be an idiot not to try and execute that thing. So the moment that it gets either difficult or unfun, because we didn't think about the unfun parts of it. We just thought about the success of it. So when it becomes difficult or not fun, or we don't arrive at the destination that we thought we were going to do, if we don't have the skills to be able to navigate that discomfort, we abandon and then we pivot. And because we do that so often, it feels like a failure because we haven't seen the thing through. So this is one of the things I always tell everybody. I'll be like, oh, you want to pivot? Great. I'm all down for a pivot. I love a pivot. We should definitely do a pivot. Can you show me a time where you executed something all the way through and it like you actually did it all the way through? Is there an example of that you can give me? So then I trust that this is a true pivot and not you just jumping off the train because it's not fun at this particular moment. And then there's a little bit of a reflection and be like, oh shit, like I don't do this all the way through. And then we go through the list like, okay, we can totally jump off this train now, but what does that do? What, I call it the 4 horsemen of procrastination. So you're either procrastinating because you're tired. Maybe it's mentally, maybe it's physically. You're just tired. You didn't get a good night's rest. You have like some stress happening in your life. A family member is sick, whatever, just life.
Low blood sugar. Right? Need a meal. I need a meal.
Sure. So there's the physical or mental procrastination that's happening. That requires one kind of anecdote. Then there's like the judgment. Like I'm afraid the thing that I'm going to make is going to suck or people are going to judge me for that, right? There's that kind of procrastination. There's the procrastination of doing too many things. You're overwhelmed, so you're doing nothing. There's that kind of procrastination. There's the one that you talked about earlier, the procrastination of like, I'm afraid that this will succeed and now I'm going to have to show up for this thing all the time.
I have to do it.
Yeah. I'm going to have to freaking do it. And so all those require different tools and approaches. And sometimes it's one of them. Sometimes it's a combination of those things. And so first you have to understand, okay, why do I want to pivot? Am I just avoiding the discomfort of the thing that I'm trying to do? Is this the core thing that I should be working on? So there's so many like layers that we have to answer first before we know what tool or what pivot we should take.
So I'm a master problem solver. I think everybody with ADHD has that superpower.
Yep.
My husband will tell me though that I'm always focusing on the negative. But I say to him, like, I'm also Italian from New Jersey. Like, right. That is what we do. We focus on every negative thing that can happen. So I know how to problem solve that. I also think that comes from being in TV and radio, especially live TV and radio. We have to know what could possibly go wrong because we have to be able to solve it like this, right? So that is my nature, is to figure out what could possibly go wrong and then problem solve. My husband said, well, what if you thought about only the things that could go right? And I'm like, well, my brain doesn't work that way. But can I get my brain to work that way? Like, what if I'm thinking of all the good things that can happen, all the right things that could happen? Is that an ADHD thing? Like we always only think about the problems, and can we flip it to, well, what if we just only thought about the good things that can happen and not all the bad things?
Yeah, I think it's both. So is it only an ADHD thing? No, a lot of people sort of have disaster brain. Do I find that I see it amplified with ADHD brains? Yes, because again, we're generating ideas at
so
higher
quickly,
rates than else. So we've already like gone through the million steps where normal people are on step number 2, we're on step 100. So again, this is a skill and a muscle that you can learn and get better at. So it's a little caveman vibes, meaning that our brains naturally scan a space and everything that feels safe or good, we forget about it. And then we only focus on the negative. It's the reason why negative attack ads work in politics, because the things that like, it's another reason why the news isn't filled every single day with the story of all the airplanes that landed safely. Boring. Right. You already know what happens. We only talk about it when the plane crashes, even though it's a freaking miracle that hundreds and thousands of planes land safely every single day. Like that should be celebrated every single day, but we don't do that, right? So it's a little bit about how our wiring is and caveman of like, you know what? I think I hear a lion over there, so that's what I'm going to focus on. But running and exercise, great. Honor those fears. You should. I don't think you should dismiss those. Here's all the things that could go wrong. Great. But you also have to make an effort to say, I'm also going to put a list of all the things that could go right. So It's another ADHD contradiction. I want you to do both those things. I want you to have the full menu of possibilities and options. And then what you're doing is you're serving yourself with like the true potential of what things can be. You're giving yourself the information to make a better decision versus just one, which is the negative. Do both, negatives and positives. I do this with a mind map. I think we did this in the course together. Don't know where it is, but a mind map is we could do a mind map really quickly together. You want to do a mind map together?
Do I have to get pen and paper?
Pen and paper, yeah. Let's do pen and paper. Okay, so let's do a mind map together. And a mind map, this is really great. So I'm a very visual and tangible person. I love to do mind maps. And a mind map is basically just kind of like a visual diagram that organizes information around a certain concept. So this one, we're going to do 2 mind maps. We're going to do one that's sort of the disaster mind map, and then we're going to do the potential success, the positives of a particular idea. So give me an idea that you've been thinking about lately.
Well, the event this weekend, I've got a CreatorCon event.
Yeah.
Where I'm with other podcasts, and the fears are. Do you want me to tell you what I want out of it, or what my fears are first?
Also, in the middle, I just want you to write a circle and write
CreatorCon.
Okay.
So
write CreatorCon in it, and then one thing. So then let's start with like what is one thing that you're afraid of? What is one activity or thing that you have a fear around that's maybe giving you pause to do?
Meeting people, creating podcasts on the spot.
Okay, meeting people. So
just meeting people, networking is like.
So what is that fear? So what you want to do then? So we have CreatorCon in the middle. So here we're going to do meeting people.
Okay.
Meeting people. And then I want you to branch off from that and write what your fear is.
Okay.
So what are you afraid of meeting people? What is the fear?
People that I won't be able to either help or we don't connect on the right level. Does that make sense? Like, I'd love to connect with people that either I can help or that can help me. And then I just feel like I'm not going to meet those people. That is the fear.
So it's like I'm not gonna waste the time, or like
yes. Like, why did I come?
You're projecting failure.
Yes.
Okay, so like you fail to connect. So then in the next bubble, you would write failure to connect. Failure to connect.
Got it.
All right. And you keep branching out from bubble to bubble. So let's say I meet people and I fail to connect with them. Then what's the next bubble? The next bubble could be like, then I'm wasting my time. And then the next bubble is I'm there and I'm just angry and bored and annoyed that I'm there. And now I'm in a shitty attitude. And then the next bubble is like, now everyone that meets me thinks that I'm a bitch because I don't want to be here.
Which happens a lot. Like, I have resting bitch face to begin with. I'm not approachable.
There you go. You're already at a disadvantage. So
there you go. So, I have RBF. It's great.
I want you to like keep mapping out that whole thing. And then at the end of the day, you feel like shit because you lost a day of productivity. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. Right. So you can do that with several things happening at the event. Okay. And then I also want you to make another one of these mind maps of all the things that could go right. So you can take the same one and be like, meeting people. Oh my God, I met my next new client. We totally connected on the fact that we both love yoga pants with lots of pockets. That's incredible. Guess what? She's launching a yoga line with lots of pockets. Holy shit. Not only am I going to help her with her campaign, but I'm going to be one of the creators. And I just got an endorsement for my podcast. Now I'm in a great freaking mood. And now I'm just ringing it. Like, I'm helping people. See what I'm saying? You have to be able to hold both things at the same time.
I love that. Well, I'll be doing that later. Oh my God, I love that so much. What are the darlings that you yourself have had to kill?
Oh my God, so many. So
So
many.
is it an ongoing thing? Because for some reason, everything I wrote out to you, those are also the same things. Even though my brain is constantly creating, it's all in the same realms of what I decided to focus on and the darlings I had to kill. So yours change that often?
It's no, yeah, the hardest thing about ADHD is when you do pick the thing, sticking with the thing.
Right.
Because this is the thing that we don't we don't account for when things become not fun. Those moments of like, this is an important thing. I want to do that thing, but it's in a moment of not funness. And oftentimes we don't have the tools to be able to get through that moment, and that's where the pivot or we abandon takes place. So like, I have shiny object syndrome like crazy all the time. The idea is, I think of it as like being, you're a surfer in the ocean. You don't jump on every single wave that comes to you. You don't jump on every single idea that comes to you. Again, we get excited and ramped up because we see the potential of all those ideas and we want to hold on to them. But when we try and do everything, we end up doing nothing. So just like a surfer is sitting out there in the water, you know what? Those waves come in. I'm not jumping on everyone. I'm letting them go past me. I'm letting someone else grab that wave. That wave's not for me. And the more I observe and the more I'm sitting back and watching, the better I am at knowing which wave to jump on and which wave to let go of. Literally every single day, an incredible idea pops in my head. And it's frustrating. Like, that is one of our burdens that we carry. That's the disability part, is having too many great ideas that you know what the potential is. It's so hard to let go of those. But the better you get at that, the better you get at actually getting something done. And that's what feels good, is like sticking with something and finally like making progress in the things that are most important to you.
Is that how you stay so consistent with content? Because that's the one thing I admire is you're very consistent. You show up. You may not be getting the response that you want all the time, but at the same time, like you still show up again and again.
It's so
Like
funny you
where
say that, because I feel like my content regimen is horrible, because I hate. I'm having a bit of a, yeah. You're hitting me at a moment where I'm really trying to figure out my relationship with content, because I'm unclear if the sort of post every day thing is really A, going to work, B, what I want my life to be filled with. So you're catching me at a bit of a transitional moment. That's one of the reasons why I started doing more IRL stuff, because I was like, oh, it feels more fun to shake people's hands and walk into shops and like do that sort of song and dance than like,
mm-hmm.
do this all day and
the
post
right
into
the
the void.
yeah.
Um, you know, I feel like this is the number one conversation that I have with me and my other friends and even clients. Like, how much do I actually have to be online? And it's overwhelming because everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks they got the right answer. Most of the people that say they have the answer are full of shit and they just
Yeah.
want you to
Nobody
download
knows.
the thing.
Yep.
The best source is Musari on Instagram. He posts every week a series of questions that says, this is what's working on here. This is what's not working on here. So, a little bit of that. Also know that, he's running a company and he wants me to post all the time. So I kind of like,
Right.
but I like, yeah, I've stopped listening to all the gurus and experts. And I'm just like, what do I want to do? What is going to be sustainable for me? What is, I'll put it this way. How do you define productivity? This is one of the first things I do when I work with a client. First, we're going to figure out where your needs and values are. Then we're going to define the word productivity, because that word has been hijacked. It means different things to different people. It's like, hey, you're not being productive unless you're making $500,000 MRR every month. Like, shut up. What is productive? Not doing something. Being present with my kid when I'm not on the phone, making sure I go for a bike ride and not feeling guilty, because like that is a productive day. And we only look at productivity in the terms of like, how much output did I put? Like, I'm not a factory putting out like cars. I'm a human being, and being productive, you have to define that for yourself, and you have to acknowledge that, you know what, the fact that I didn't finish my to-do list, but my son and I went to the lake, I had more productivity today than yesterday when I made 10 Instagram videos. So start with defining productivity for yourself first.
And that's the same thing that's similar to success. Like, what is a successful day to me? So I love that thought process. And then the word purpose. I know that that's part of what you do is help people define their purpose. But I think that word was so big to me for so long, right? That it's like, I don't have to help everybody. I'm not here to create like world peace. Like, that doesn't have to be my purpose. Like, purpose seems such a big word. And I'm still trying to figure all of that out. How do you help people solve that problem of like, what is my purpose?
Dude, fantastic question. So when it comes to purpose, the world feels so overwhelming. There are a million things that deserve our attention, but we physically can't give everything our attention, but everything feels immediate. We just went through an election. There's wars around the world. The planet's burning up. Like, all those things, equality, racism, all those things are equally deserved. You can make a case for all those things that are important that deserve your attention. And the algorithms just make us feel overwhelmed and make us feel shitty. And like, I'm raged and mad at this. I'm raged and mad at that. Oh, like, they just cut down more trees in the Amazon. God damn it. I got to do something about that. Like, take a beat. And one of the things I always tell people is like, pick one thing and let go of this guilt. And, I hear a lot of ADHD people talk about, we kind of struggle with like fairness. Also, like, when people are getting a raw deal, we have that sort of empathic, what's the word? It's called empathics. Hold on, edit point. It's going to be so smooth once you make it. Empathic distress. Okay. So many ADHD people struggle with this concept of fairness and empathic distress. Like, we take on the pain or inequality that someone else might be suffering, and we kind of like internalize that and be like, I need to do something about that. And so we carry this burden, and then we're whiplashed with all these catastrophes that we want to step up. Find your cause, find that one thing that's important to you, and let go of the others. And that one thing, you know what? If you want to get on board and you want to fight for women's rights, like, that is an incredibly worthy cause. Do it. But also incredibly worthy, and is worthy of your time, is making sure your elderly neighbor like has her groceries this week or needs help like fixing her gutter. Like, we tend to think of these big world things and we forget like our community, our backyard. Those are the things that really impact us the most and make us feel the best, because these bigger world problems, they're not going to be solved by you. They're not going to be solved in our lifetime. Like, you can put your one brick in the building. That's great. But you know what, dude? I got a neighbor last winter. We had a crazy blizzard. She had snow up to her door. Like, I was just making sure she was good every day. And I'd go dig her out, and she was so stoked. And when we could finally go to the grocery store, I was like, hey, what can I get you? And she goes, all I need is a pack of American Spirits and a Grand Marnier. I go, okay, girl, I thought maybe you need some food, but if all you need is alcohol and cigarettes, I got you. And you know what? Pick your one thing, let go of the others. Don't get caught up in the Instagram bullshit of feeling like you have to fix everything everywhere all at once.
That was perfect. We're going to end it right there because you can't get any better than that. That was beautiful. If people want to find you, if they want one-on-one with you, if they want to buy your courses, if they want coaching, if they want the whole all-day dreaming experience, how do they find you?
alldaydreaming.org, or just follow me at Hyla. My DMs are open. You can slip into those. I love answering questions. I love helping navigate people through the ADHD space that has a lot of bad and misinformation. So even if you don't want to work with me and you just got a question, I'm happy to answer it for you.
You're the best. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thanks, Rachel. Appreciate that. And hopefully I get some of the, does this show have a name, or is it just the Rachel
It's
show?
the Producer Rachel Show. So the reason why it's the Producer Rachel Show, though, isn't from an ego standpoint. It is a Kurt Vonnegut quote, which is, "The real show is inside my head."
There you go.
Right? There's so much going on in here.
That's right.
And I'm not following an algorithm. I'm not doing what YouTube tells you to do, which is to niche down. I'm doing the complete opposite. So I'm going to have a podcast, and I'm putting my vlogs up, and I'm doing all the things in one thing, because I am the network. The network is here. And as we create, we put it all out on the one channel. I'm not niching down. I'm not going to branch out. And that means nobody finds me, and that's okay. But I am the network. So the real show is inside my head.
And every network has a swag shop, so I hope that I get a pair. You gift me a pair of yoga pants with lots of phone pockets.
What I have is so I've got these pillows, emotional support pillows, because as a girl, when you sit down, I don't know if you've ever noticed, girls always look for a pillow and put a pillow on them because it makes them feel safe and comfortable. So for every interview, I have my emotional support pillow because it just makes me feel safe and comfortable. And so I am selling these, but we're getting there, right? Like, as much as I would love to be a t-shirt creator, it was one of the darlings I had to kill. Like, I'd love to create snarky t-shirts. That's great. We're not doing that. But I made my pillows because I needed them.
Everyone's selling shirts. No one's selling pillows.
No one's selling pillows, right? Thank you. So, yeah, it's just a matter of taking the next best step. And then that's where we are. It's the Producer Rachel Show. And really, it's not supposed to be from an ego space. It really is like, the show is inside my head. And if I can just give you snippets of what it is and help you along the way, that's sort of the whole impetus behind it. That's the whole reason.
But you have niched down into pillow fans. Like, go into the pillow. There's got to be a Reddit. There's got to be a Reddit pillow thread. There's got to be community. You could go to that world's largest pillow fight that they do every year. Like,
that's your ADHD brain shooting off. Stay right there. Hold on.